Well, want to welcome everybody back to the JSS podcast. Your resident finance bro, Byron Enriquez here. We have a treat for our guests today. I have the pleasure of having Mr. José Roberto Samano, the co-founder of Power Real Estate Group, here with us today. And we're going to do a little sit down with him. We're going to talk about the business. We're going to talk about what he does, and we're just going to kind of pull him into the conversation and see how things go. Jose, thanks for taking the time to be here with us.
Well, thank you so much. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity, the platform. I'd love to get to know you a little bit more too. And again, it's just a blessing to have another opportunity to get the word out and let people know a little bit about Power Real Estate Group and what we do and how we help agents.
Well, perfect. Jose, what I have here is I have that you've been in the business now for a little bit over 20 years, have closed over $1 billion in transactions. But the part that attracted me most about having this conversation with you was your mission, right? Your mission going beyond sales, looking to empower next generation of agents, leaders. And to me, that struck a chord because I have the same passion. But we'll get there in a minute. So just want to kind of start off just a little bit of your story. So we're going to rewind a little bit and what brought you or what pulled you into the real estate business? What kind of sparked that passion for you?
Well, honestly, for me, it's kind of destiny, man. I really can't. It wasn't something that I planned. I could tell you that much. It wasn't something that I was really like. I wasn't like growing up saying like I want to be a real estate agent. An opportunity came up at a real estate office for me to be a receptionist, and I took it. And I actually got fired from it a few months afterward. And yeah, my clothes was a little wrinkly. That was that was the thing. And then I got a second opportunity at that same company as soon as I graduated high school to start being a loan processor. And I tell people, in hindsight, that was probably the best thing I could have done because I gained so much um, um, like I gained so much knowledge as far as real estate goes very quickly. And so when I tell people that transaction coordinating, or some sort of loan processing work is always going to be um, something that's going to get you give you an advantage, I think, because you learn like vicariously through all of the transactions, and so
Yeah.
your learning curve just speeds up.
Yeah, you know what? I agree, and I think that speaks volumes, right? It's when you work your way from the bottom, and you've kind of had a step in every single part of the process, either loan processing, transaction coordinating, even answering the phones, right? You know what's needed, and you know what's happening in the market, and you've seen the, hey, we got to call a borrower or a buyer at the last minute because we're missing this or we're missing that, and you've made those annoying, difficult calls in the middle of the night or on the weekends to bug them for something, right? So no, I think that does speak volumes because I think that is a necessity that I think a lot of the younger people coming into the business, they see the glamour, right? They see the, oh, you guys are, sitting at open houses, or you guys are speaking at events, or you guys have a podcast, whatever it is, and they think that we just got here overnight.
Yeah, correct.
Right. And I think they definitely missed that, Jose, talk to me a little bit about when you were starting, did you have mentors, or did you have anybody that was influential in your path to be as successful as you are now?
I mean, honestly, my mother. My mother was, unfortunately, she passed away. Rest in peace. But she was
Sorry.
just a very, hard worker. She worked at a factory. She was an immigrant, and she was just somebody that just worked relentlessly. And so she was one of my, I guess, mentors. Somebody that I kind of looked up to. One of my uncles, I remember him always wearing a briefcase going to work, and as a kid, I was always like, what does he do? You know? And so I always kind of had this, I wanted to be a businessman type of mentality, and I always
Yeah.
associated that. And funny story is, I used to take when I was younger, I used to take a briefcase to all my listing appointments so I can look like I was a professional. I didn't have anything in there. I just had my
I
listing appointment, right? It was kind of like me wearing glasses. I felt like Clark Kent, right? Like I was just
Yeah.
like, oh
You have
man,
to
right?
put some, it's funny you say that because when I was getting my license and going through the class, that was one of the first things that they taught us. They were, being here in California and Los Angeles, it's sometimes it's about the illusion or it's about the appearance you give as much as it shouldn't be, but it is sometimes. And, showing up to a listing appointment, especially when it's your first transaction and maybe a beat up old car or
Yeah.
something, the story that somebody told me once was that when there was the teacher and she said she went to her first listing appointment and it was a beat up old car. She didn't have the money to get something, the new Mercedes or BMW or whatever it was. So she made a joke about it and she told the client, she said, "Hey, my car's in the shop and look at the rental car that they gave me."
Yeah.
Just just
Yeah,
to
yeah,
make an excuse that,
yeah.
and it worked for her. And eventually she did that, but I want to touch on something you talked about. And I know in our little pre-interview, you and I talked a little bit about it, about being Latino and being an immigrant and how much that's influenced myself. My parents are from Guatemala and El Salvador. I grew up here in LA. My parents were first generation immigrants into the country. And they're the legacy that I believe most immigrant families leave us is that work ethic, right? Is that desire to make something of ourselves so that we wouldn't be, my dad was a truck driver, my mom was a seamstress, and both of them worked cleaning offices in the middle of the night, just to be able to give us that leg up and that better life. So share a little bit about that. I know it's an emotional topic and it's something that, sharing about our parents and our story, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my mom, she always used to tell me as a kid, she would used to tell me, I brought you to this country so you can have an opportunity. Because where we're from, you probably wouldn't have an opportunity. And she goes, either you would be a taxi driver or you would be dead.
Yeah.
And it's something that as a kid, I took a sense of responsibility for, just not being like a troubled kid. Like, I've always kind of
Yeah.
was very conscious of making sure that I didn't create any more, difficulties for my mother than she needs to. My mom didn't drive. That was another thing, right?
Yeah.
So we had to take the bus everywhere. And it was like, I tell people it's like, dude, like looking back, when I was a kid, I was embarrassed of like pushing a shopping cart full of groceries, to my house. But that's the only way that I could get all of that, right? Like, so like, you go
Yeah.
through all of those things, right? And it's like it builds on you, right? It builds character. It builds like this, not taking no for an answer. It builds this,
Yeah.
this as my mom used to say, this stubborn, the head of mine that I just
Yeah.
get into something and I just keep plowing through until I get through it, and I just,
Yeah.
we have our bad days, we have our good days, and I'm always very thankful and try to be aware, even on some days where things are not going my way. I like to think about, like, I have a beautiful wife, I have an amazing daughter, healthy family. I get to listen to, a waterfall every morning, and just hot water and like little things that we take for
Yeah.
granted. It's just such a blessing for me.
Definitely, definitely. So now moving into a little bit into the Power Real Estate Group, right? And I
Yeah.
and that just first of all, the name catches me. It's just like it brings that to me. But tell us a little bit about what was your vision when you started it. What were you trying to put out there?
So, the idea was that we wanted to be a home for real estate agents that you know, wanted to work in the future. I like to say I've always been a thinking forward person. I love tech. I was a geek when I was in high school. I hung out with all the nerds. And so even though I played sports, I kind of had a balancing act. I could do both. So I was playing basketball, JV, with the varsity guys. But at the same time, during lunch, I sat down with all the 4.0 GPA averages, right? So I kind of hung out with both
Good.
because I love computer games. So they were the only geeks that would hang out with me to play computer games. And I used to play this game called Dota. And it's essentially like StarCraft, right? used to kind of like fight, and that's how I learned how to type actually, because I needed to communicate, but I didn't have a mic, so I had to type to people, and I learned how to type very quickly. And so I started doing lead generation with Zillow in 2013. I started doing Google ads, Facebook ads, and I was like, oh my God, this is the way. Because I door knocked, I did all of those things that didn't really kind of work for me. And with Power Real Estate Group, we wanted to create a brokerage where we actually were in the trenches with the agents. This is not an agency where you come in and you just hang your license and like, cool, man, like let me know when I need to write you a check and I'll try to write you 100%. I feel like we're competing against some of the largest companies in the world, right? Zillow, Redfin. Zillow is my partner, right? But at the same time, I understand they're competing against me. I understand Homes.com is, Redfin is, and as far as the attention of the client, right? Whoever's getting the attention of the client is who's winning. That's
Yeah.
why social media is important. And so I feel like an agent by themselves typically is not going to do well. You need in an army, you need people to be making phone calls, doing postcards. Um, and I always like to joke around telling people it's like I'm like Terminator. I'm from the future, like I'm going back in time to like the 80s, where the broker was in charge of making your phone ring. We used to have this thing called floor time, right? Where we would make your phone ring, right? And the reason why I say we is because I started in 2004. So the people that I was in business were from the 80s and 90s. So they used to tell me about these things all of the time. And so I understood a lot of those concepts. So, and today we role play every single day at Power Real Estate Group, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. uh, we're role playing. Fridays, we're role playing. We're practicing our buyer's presentation, our listing presentation. Why should I charge you 3%? Why should I make 2.5%? Why should I charge you 6% on this listing? Like, we are practicing all those objections every single day. And as a broker, I feel like my responsibility is to make your phone ring. So that's what we wanted to do at Power Real Estate Group. We wanted to create the best agent for the clients that we could as possible. And so that's what we're trying to do.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that approach. Um, so you as a broker, and I know you're also a leader in the community and leader in what you like to do. But something that really caught my eye was somebody who likes to build other leaders,
Yes.
right? That somebody that likes to empower. So you just give me a quick, what's your philosophy on leadership? What's your philosophy, especially in the real estate market, right? How do you use that influence and that leadership in the market?
So it's I tell people is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, to go together, right? That's our mantra in our
Yeah.
office. And I like to feel like I'm only as strong as my weakest link. And so I feel like, people that are on board on our team, they need to be sharp, out of respect for our team and out of respect for themselves. And so they need to put the time in, they need to put in, the effort, because if you're falling back, you're not just letting yourself down, you're letting the whole team down, right? Like everyone depends on this. And because of the fact that we're a Zillow or a Realtor.com, Redfin, like all these agencies that give us leads, it's as a unit. We get graded as a unit. We don't get graded individually. So it doesn't matter that I'm the best converter on the team. If we have somebody who's not doing their job,
Yeah.
it doesn't really kind of help us. And so that was one of the things. And then as a real estate, when I transitioned to real estate in 2013, I typically was the best agent at most of my brokerages. And I started seeing a lot of like that created like a lot of ego from some of the people in the agency. And I think it's maybe the industry, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But my broker of record never wanted me to do better than them, right? And I found a cloud-based brokerage, which is real, and it allows for us to play in the sand, and all of us have our individual sandbox. But like, I'm rooting for you. I actually don't want to
Yeah.
necessarily be the biggest team. I want to be the biggest team creator. I want to be able to give as many people the opportunity to generate and create their own team. And it's the reason why we're utilizing this vehicle and this platform. I like to say, we're this vehicle, which is a cloud-based brokerage that allows you to make money in different ways. We're the gas. We give you all the leads. We give you all the appointments that you're going to need. And then we're just looking for the drivers, right? Who's
Yeah.
going to be the driver?
Yeah, no, I like that you said that, because, myself included, I've been doing this for a long time, and, we operate a brokerage as well. And I'm getting questions from people, doing this podcast where it's like, well, look, you're giving a platform for your competition. You're giving a platform for others to speak up. And I'm like, you know what? For me, that's not what it's about, right? For me, it's about empowering people. It's about education. It's about giving people the opportunity to shine. There's just because I'm rooting for you to succeed doesn't mean that I'm rooting against myself,
Correct.
right? And I think that's something that's missing in this industry a little bit too much, is the egos and the, hey, I want to be the top producer and I want to do this and I want to do that. When, you know what, I think, especially like you said, that mentality of, if my office does well and our team is doing well and we're excelling, then it raises everybody's game, right? And we all
Yeah,
get
man.
better,
Yeah, I mean, if I
and
have, like for me, it's always like, look, man, if I have all of my agents producing. So in 2017, I started running a team and I started putting my teammates' name on the contracts. And people were like, "What? Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "Because I'm already famous, dude. Like, I don't need. I was just messing with them, right? But I was just
yeah.
like, dude, I don't need to put my name on a contract to know my worth and to know who I am at this particular point in my career. And all I'm trying to do is build you up because when I give you a lead, I need you to have reviews and I need you to have a track record, or else you're not gonna win. And my job is to get you to have an opportunity to win because I started taking on a lot of listings on, and I started, essentially getting showing agents and buyers agents as my mentees, and I would give them all my transactions below a certain price point, and that's how I built my team. Literally one
Yeah,
agent
no,
at a time.
see, yeah, and that's the way it should be, right? I think, I'm big into leadership and mentoring, and what can we do for the next generation coming behind us and our legacy, and what do we do? And I think it's so important that I think that the sign of a true leader is the fact that you're pretty much working yourself out of a job, right? But by
Correct.
empowering those beneath us, excuse me, you're empowering those beneath us, you're raising it. But people think, oh, you're training your replacements, but no, I'm not, because as they grow, we're all rising, and I think that's just something that people miss out on. Changing things up a little bit and going into a little bit more of the business of real estate. You mentioned a lot about the tech and, some of the cool tools and resources that US Power Real Estate are offering to your guys and to your team. But you know how this business is always changing. We're always evolving into what's next, and how can we do the newest and greatest. And as I'm sure you've been around a long time, it's not always about the best, the newest and greatest, right? It's sometimes about what's tried and true and what works. But tell us a little bit about how you adapt, and how do you make this business, and finding the trends that you think are the most profitable, that work for your team.
Well, I mean, like I think they surface up. I'm very thankful to have a partnership with Zillow. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them, and I wouldn't be here as far as understanding that real estate has changed from being a individual like player type of environment to a team environment, like heavily. Like we're going from an entrepreneurial to like we're running a business now. Like,
Yeah.
and the other person that was really influential to this is my business partner. His name is Jeffrey McGonigal, and he kind of came from that aspect as well. And so we just learned very quickly that number one, we needed to have a centralized CRM, right? We couldn't have agents have their own CRM because most agents don't utilize their CRM, number one. Number two is most can't work their CRM. They don't have the know-how, right? They don't have enough time during the day to actually build out email campaigns, texting campaigns, retargeting campaigns, landing pages. Like, dude, that's not what I got into real estate for. I got into real estate because I
Yeah.
know how to talk to people and I can close them and I can present and I could and I love showing houses. That's why I got into real estate. I didn't get into it to do all these other things, right? And so that was one thing. And then, then we learned ISAs are important, right? Having inside sales agent team. So currently we have like 25 virtual assistants helping us to do different things from making calls to editing videos, right? So most of our infrastructure is out of the country. So I like to say we're not local, we're global, right? And I'm a little local, I'm a little uh
I
and then
I think we all are to be in this business.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then so those are a few things that I think are important. And then the last thing is really adopting the culture of, you know, a professional environment, right? Like we're switching back into this being a professional job, which I think for a long time real estate agents have been looked upon, and even loan officers as people who are like just, I guess for lack of better words, like a used car salesman or whatever
Yeah,
people like to say, right? Which they also have their situation, right? But I feel like, we have an opportunity as agents to gain some sort of respect back in the business, to treat the business like a real job. And for a
yeah.
long time, it's like I would talk to clients and they would say, "Oh yeah, my agent gets back to me. That's why I use him." And I'm like, "What? Is that the only
You
reason
see,
why you're working with this
that's
guy? Because he gets back
setting
to
the
you?"
bar very low. Yeah, setting the
Yeah,
bar very
yeah, yeah.
low.
So as far as tech
But
goes, sorry to cut you
no,
off,
no.
but as far as tech goes, we just kind of I saw the internet jump. When I got into the industry, we didn't even use the internet. We were still using magazines and Thomas Guide, and then we started using the internet. And then I started seeing social media. I started seeing Facebook ads, Google ads. So I've always kind of evolved with it. Right now, I'm with AI. I know how to generate leads, and so my outbound outreach that happens initially, it's all done through AI. And I think it's important for your brokerage to learn how to generate leads, and get in front of people.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to touching on two things that you talked about, I think it's, one of the things that I've seen a lot of memes about it lately. It's like that as realtors or loan officers, kind of putting everybody in the same bucket. Um, we're not only salespeople anymore. We're not only finance people. We're not only selling houses, but we have to content creators. We are advertising. We are marketing. We have to do, so many things just to be able to get to be successful. Where
Yeah.
maybe in the 80s it was, hey, you knew how to sell a house, you knew how to talk about title issues, and you knew how to navigate certain things. And now there's just been added so many more layers to it, and I think that's something that a lot of people miss. And the second part, that I really appreciate you bringing up was the fact that the successful people in this industry have realized that you have to operate this as a business, right? You have to surround yourself with people that know what they're doing, and in different aspects of it, and in marketing, in social media, and content, and video creation, and all the tools that we have available. They're all amazing things to do, but if you're not doing them well or utilizing them, like you said, AI and all the different tools that are available to us, and if we're not using them, then we're just falling behind, right? So no, I appreciate you bringing that up. Um, give me some of the things that I like to talk to people about. What's the one thing, like a warning, that you would give either yourself 20 years ago starting in the business, or somebody just starting in the business now? What are the pitfalls? What are just like, hey, these are the mistakes that I see uh, young people make, leaders, salespeople? Give us a little bit about what you think is things to avoid.
I would say to think this job is flexible is number one. Um, I was fortunate enough to not to treat this like a real job from the beginning, because I actually worked as a loan processor, so I had to actually show up on time. So that was a blessing in disguise for me, because I've never not shown up at the office at 7:30 in the morning for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So that's been my kind of like, I tell people that's like my trick. My trick is that I'm here every day at 7:30. I just
Yeah.
show up. And so I'm halfway through the day. I'm already beating you at that point, right? And so that's I would say one thing. Um, the other thing is to try to hurry up my process. And so I feel like real estate has a process, right? And so everyone typically does the buy side first. And typically, just from what we've seen, is you start off at low price points because those are the only people that believe you. And I don't know, it just happens that way. For some reason, some people do better than others, and they may get higher price points, but for the majority, we see a trajectory, at least for all of the agents I've ever worked with, we see a trajectory of their price point increase as their skill set increases and as their experience
Yeah.
increases. And we always see them start off as a buyer's agent typically. And usually what we see, at least in our brokerage, is by their second and third year, they're starting to flip more over to the listing side. So we've been able to create a process that we can almost guarantee any agent that in 3 years I'll make you a pure listing agent, meaning that you wouldn't even work with any buyers. You'll just be working listings because not only I will be giving you listing leads, all of the buyers that you've closed in your first 3 years, they all will have turned into listings.
Yeah.
And so usually that carries you on pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. That's great advice. And I think that's something that, yeah, I see that trajectory also, the more experience you start, playing into in different ponds, right? If you start messing with different fish, different clients.
Yeah. And I would
So
do
we're
two things as an agent in the beginning. I would do only open houses. And if your office provides leads, I would call the leads. And those are the only two plays that I'm running. I'm calling leads and I'm doing open houses. Everything else, I'm not trying to be, it takes time. Like not everyone can be a social media star, like, or else they
yeah.
wouldn't be stars. If everyone
Yeah.
was a star, then they wouldn't be stars. Like it's just
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I think one of the things too that I always tell the young people is it's sometimes they get overwhelmed because they're seeing all these things coming out, right? All these these avenues to try to generate the business. But I like you said, and one of the things that I've taught, and I've been teaching sales for many years. One of the things that I always teach people is find those two or three things that you're going to do and just stick to that, right?
yeah,
Don't deviate. Don't switch. Don't go from just get good at the two things or the two, three things that you want to do. So,
correct.
Jose, we're coming up. We're getting ready to wrap up, but I just want to kind of end with the kind of last question. What's next? What do you personally, Power Real Estate? What's next? You have any big projects? Anything you want to talk about? Anything you're excited to share with the people?
Well, we've generated over 1,200 appointments this year from just our ISA team. So if you then count all of our lead flow that we have, we've generated around 2,000 appointments this year. And so no, sorry, 4,000 appointments this year. And so we are trying to grow. We have too much opportunity, so much so that our team sometimes doesn't understand that they live in a very abundant place, and so we are trying to grow. We're trying to help other teams. We see other teams struggling. Humbly, I'm saying this. I'm not trying to say that I'm better than anybody, but we do have a lot of lead flow, and I tell people just attach yourself. It doesn't have to be my team. There's a handful of teams out there that are doing an amazing job, and you should look at them. You should look at people's infrastructure, what they're offering, what they're doing, because I feel like brokerages are not necessarily giving people enough. And I'm sorry I'm saying that, but it is the truth. And I
It's
feel
true.
like teams are providing a little bit more than a lot of brokerages. And so that's one thing that we're looking to expand on and trying to do a little bit more and just make teams profitable, right? Like everyone wants leads and things like that, but I'm saying at the end of the day, what you're looking for is profit because you're trying to run a business, right? And so that's the main focus. We're trying to look for teams and people that need help and help them out in that way. And the second thing is I have a platform called Vende Tu Casa with a K, and it's my play on like understanding how online lead generation works and basically bringing sellers to the Latino community that are essentially people that are trying to sell their house. And the idea is to partner them up with agents who are going to provide a certain level of service and a certain you know I guess honesty and security when our people kind of need that, right? And so I noticed that there isn't a platform for predominantly Spanish speaking leads, and one
Yeah.
out of five people in our country is Latino. And you know I think there's a huge opportunity there, and it's not necessarily that I'm speaking only Spanish. I'm speaking a little bit of Spanglish, right? Because it
Yeah.
resonates to people like me, right? And so yeah, I mean that's something that I'm trying to bring to the table in this 2026.
Perfect. That's very exciting. And Jose, so for those anybody who wants to connect with you or kind of learn from you and Power Real Estate, we're going to put your contact info in here, what information you want to share, but where can people find you? What markets are you in? Where are you doing this great service for the community?
So we're pretty much everywhere in Southern California except for San Diego. We have 4 offices. My Instagram handle is José Roberto Samano. You guys can find me there. The Power Real Estate Group
There you
on
go.
social. You guys can connect through me through there. You also can go to my website, joserobertosamano.com. Yeah, man, I'm usually pretty easy to get a hold of. My cell phone number is everywhere, which I'm
And
thinking about changing it now. But yeah, I mean, to a fault, I tend um give people a lot of time. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'll give you the time, and I'll listen to you and see if there's anything that we can do to work with each other. I love to help in any way, and power up, as we like to say.
definitely. Well, Jose, it's been powerful, literally and figuratively.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for sharing your story and your wisdom with us. And I'm
Thank you,
excited
sir.
to promote you guys and to our listeners. Thanks for tuning in. It's we're trying to push this podcast out, get some subscribers. We're trying to get some information and knowledge out to people, and make it a resource for other agents, other people in our communities to speak about themselves and to highlight what they're doing for our market. So we'll keep the communications and we'll keep the conversations going. Subscribe, follow us, share. You guys know where to find us, and we'll share all of Jose's info. Jose, again, thank you for so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Bye. See ya.